Who would think a smart fan's digital update could unravel a 17-year marriage? My 49-year-old wife's 18-month deception was laid bare, thanks to the very app designed for its maintenance. It's ironic, but I feel an obligation to thank Dyson for this unexpected revelation. Our union had lasted 17 years, and we never had children together. She had a previous divorce and brought two daughters into our lives, whom I helped nurture. They are currently 28 and 23, and joined us before we wed. In my view, we experienced only minor challenges. We maintained truly open communication, discussing everything from career stress and personal frustrations to intimate matters and general feelings. Often, we'd simply talk on the couch about life's broader philosophies. I genuinely believed we shared a powerful bond and enjoyed a very satisfying private life. Both of us kept fit and followed a healthy routine. I work in healthcare, and recent circumstances led me to take on considerable extra shifts over the last 5 months. She works in legal consulting and has been remote for the same period, which introduced some distance. Yet, on our days off, we were inseparable. Last night, I changed the air filter on our bedroom's Dyson fan. I asked my wife if I could use her phone to refresh the application and clear the filter reminder, as mine was charging by the main entrance. I noticed her phone now had a pattern lock, and I felt a slight urge to inquire about it. While searching for the fan app on her device, a Snapchat notification appeared. My gut clenched instantly as I read the brief text. "I'll bring the special toy," it said. My mind registered the words, but my thoughts simply ceased. After what felt like several minutes of me just sitting and staring at the bedroom fan, she asked what was wrong. My wife travels for a mandatory quarterly meeting, taking her 2 states away for 5 days each business quarter. I immediately understood this referred to her upcoming trip on Monday. For years, I'd browsed online forums anonymously. I'd encountered countless stories that began exactly like this, yet I never imagined I'd be the one sitting on my bedroom floor, utterly stunned and cold. I regained my composure and mumbled, "Oh, just checking data for the home router. That's how the fan communicates with its app." I have a laptop she used to access social media yesterday. I requested a week's leave on short notice. My manager is understanding, and once I explained what I might have uncovered and what I needed to do, she approved the time off. I spent the entire night reviewing her messages. She just left for her office. I ensured her location tracking was active, and Find My Phone was enabled. Now I suspect every move she makes. I can barely look at myself. She doesn't know I saw that notification. I accessed the messaging platform Verizon uses, signing in with her number and my name. There were at least 15,000 communications, dating back to February of the previous year. Texts, images, flirtatious photos, and some explicit ones too. She stopped using this method to message him about 3 months ago. Not that she stopped messaging him entirely, but she ceased using the Verizon app. I suspect they transitioned to Snapchat for its discretion. I'm completely off all social platforms. I'm quite out of touch. I just realized you can't log into Snapchat via Facebook, but it only requires an email and password, and she had used this very laptop for that. In fact, she used it just 3 nights prior, lying beside me in bed, gently rubbing my back as I drifted off to sleep. She was messaging him right there. It's a younger man from her workplace, married with 3 young children. He and his wife are on Facebook. I've met him twice, even shaken his hand. I'm utterly bewildered again, having paced through the house I personally built for her for hours. I can barely feel anything. The little I can process is pure, searing anger. I logged into Snapchat, and there it all was. I called my closest friend, who has been through 3 divorces. Let's not even discuss his choices in partners. He suggested a ruthless attorney. I intend to document and preserve everything. There are pictures of them. I'm certain her phone or his holds videos. I desperately wish this were all a terrible dream. She had written awful things about me. She revealed my vulnerabilities. She told him, "I love you." They haven't made any long-term plans, so this seems like a purely physical connection. In a twisted way, it almost lessens the blow, but simultaneously makes it so much worse. It's as if she's simply discarding our entire life for this. She knows infidelity is an absolute deal breaker for me. Our custom when she leaves for her meetings is for me to drive her to the airport and drop her off with a lingering farewell. I can't even fathom what I must do now. My friend advises, print everything and see if you can recover more from Snapchat. From what I understand, I can't without her actual device. My plan is to consult the lawyer today. I'm paying a substantial amount to expedite an appointment, initiate the process, and hopefully receive a strategy. I really want to book a flight and follow my wife to her hotel to catch them in the act. I have access to her hotel reservation details and have listed myself as a contact so I can obtain a room key without alerting her. I think I'll just log into their messaging applications once I arrive in town and observe events unfolding in real time. If I could prepare the legal documents promptly, I'd present them to her then. Instead, I'll just hand her the printouts, a 600-page digital file. His wife accepted my friend request. I'm debating sending everything now. I'm boiling with fury. I simply don't want to lose any tactical advantage. I'll fly there Monday afternoon, log in, and review their conversations. I'll get a key to her room and leave the package there along with my wedding ring. I'll then sit in the bar and watch my phone light up. I'll call the other man, instruct him to meet me in the lobby or bar and bring my wife downstairs. Then I'll inform him that a similar package has been sent via certified mail to his home address for his wife, along with a social media message I intend to send as I speak to him. It feels petty and weak. I want to explode with anger and scream, but I'm powerless. This morning, all I could manage was a brief kiss goodbye on her cheek. I truly cannot bear to meet her gaze. I somehow have to endure this entire weekend. I suppose I'm wondering, is this vengeful, hate-fueled strategy truly worth it? At this stage, I just want to inflict suffering. I want to wound her emotionally. I feel gutted, diminished. I will not consider an apology. This is the one act that is unforgivable. Cheating involves so many deliberate steps. Every one of them could be halted until the transgression is complete. Then, it's done. Should I confront her tonight or wait to catch her? I don't believe I'll post further updates. I'm seriously contemplating never using social media again and only seeking a partner with a similar outlook going forward. Update: I located the special toy. Bear in mind, we possess a collection of adult pleasure devices. It was already in her carry-on. It's one of those remote-controlled items operated by an application. It appears quite costly. I'm meeting with the lawyer in 90 minutes. First update: I met with the attorney. She was genuinely kind, and I'd even say empathetic with me. She stated clearly that her role was to represent me in this struggle for my future. My role, she explained, was to provide her with the complete truth and not complicate her work. I went to a print shop and had the file copied. It cost $534 for color copies, as I wanted the images to stand out. A shout out to Chris at the copy center for not reacting when the explicit pictures began printing. He asked what it was all about, so I told him. He seemed startled, but shook my hand and offered his sympathy. I returned home and collapsed for about 3 hours. My soon-to-be ex-wife arrived home around 7:30 p.m., her usual time. The lawyer advised against any dramatic hotel bar confrontation, saying it would appear irrational and achieve nothing. So, I apologized to all who hoped for high drama. She was right. Ultimately, there are two paths in divorce, contested or uncontested. She said I would have to inform my soon-to-be ex-wife that I had retained legal representation, and to proceed, my wife would either contest the divorce or we would go through mediation and file from there. So she came home about 2 hours ago. I asked if there was anything she wished to discuss. She replied, nothing except the election. She then asked what was bothering me. I wanted to weep, but honestly, I was beyond tears. I stated I was curious why she had a remote-controlled vibrator in her luggage. The expression on her face was more revealing than anything I'd ever witnessed. She looked terrified, utterly drained of color. Her breathing quickened, sweat beaded on her skin. I asked why she would possess such an item, who held the access code and the accompanying application. She stammered and tears began to flow. As I produced my 3 folders filled with text exchanges, I asked if the other man's wife would have the details. She wept and begged, claiming she could explain. I gave her 5 minutes. Of course, she couldn't. I informed her that my attorney had instructed me to tell her. I also told her to leave. She screamed that it was her house too. I calmly responded that perhaps, but I would be informing everyone about her affair and betrayal, including her daughters. Or she could depart now and arrange temporary living accommodations. After all, she'd be at her work conference for a week. She was speechless. I calmly opened social media and displayed the other man's wife's profile. I asked, "Do you want me to tell her or will you do it right now?" More tears, moans, and pleas of "I love you," and it wasn't supposed to go this far. Then my favorite, "You can't do this." I retorted, "Well, it appears I am." As I dispatched a message to the other man's wife, attaching the file of their exploits, I began with apologies and a brief explanation. I haven't heard back from her. I flipped through the stacks of paper and began reading random excerpts aloud to my soon-to-be ex-wife. "I just wish we could spend the day attached to each other. Just you inside of me. You feel so much more intense than any other woman I've ever been with." She continued sobbing and asked to discuss us. She insisted our marriage could endure her mistake. I told her I would never forgive her. Her word meant nothing, and she had wasted the past 17 years. I'm still considering informing HR and plan to tell everyone about her choice to end our marriage through infidelity. Thank you to everyone who responded. I regret I couldn't reply to all the private messages and comments. I have a therapy appointment scheduled for Tuesday. I feel an odd mix of extreme elation and incredible despair right now. I'm shaking. Part of me wants to die. The house is quite silent, save for her crying and moaning. I instructed her not to return after her trip. I'm currently sending connection requests, gathering everyone on my social page. I'll just disseminate the information that way. I'll wait until morning to contact the girls. I raised them from when they were 11 and 6. They are grown women now, 28 and 23. I don't know what to say to them or how to approach the situation. Second update. To those who kept saying, "That's not how a certain messaging app functions," yes, you are correct. She had another app operating in the background. It was WhatsApp. I don't really care. I saw it. Again, I need to thank Dyson for their application and the fantastic fan my brother-in-law gave me for Christmas. Here it goes. I'm going to provide more insight into our background to offer perspective on my current feelings. My initial post was very much a stream of thoughts, feeling as disorganized as I did then. I attended university in Las Vegas in the mid-90s, graduating in '99. I enjoyed my time there thoroughly. It was during this formative period that I resolved never to marry. I considered it an antiquated notion that essentially stripped away one's autonomy, and I definitely did not desire children. After earning my nursing degree, I quickly excelled in cardiovascular intensive care. I moved back home to Texas in 2001 and pursued my master's degree to become an advanced practice registered nurse practitioner, specializing in cardiac surgery. While working towards this, I decided to apply to medical school and adjusted my coursework to meet the prerequisites. It was then that I encountered my soon-to-be ex-wife. She was a petite, somewhat curvy, what young people today might call thick, red-haired dynamo. We met during a medical emergency. The intensity was palpable, both in the situation and in our subsequent dating. We were exchanging declarations of love within 3 months. She was a mother of 2, remember? I wanted to be child-free, and had been divorced for about 2 years. She was just ending an on-again, off-again relationship when we met. We dated for approximately 2 years, and she gradually introduced her daughters to me, aged 11 and 6. One evening, she sat me down and delivered a heartfelt yet practical discussion about our relationship at that point and what she expected from me or any future partner. Essentially, she stated it was time to either commit to marriage or move on. I was still quite opposed to marriage, and she respected that. She was telling me this to give me an opportunity to reflect on us and our potential future. She made a valid point. We had been cohabiting for 8 months and had even designated each other as emergency contacts. She joked that the only thing missing was being on each other's insurance. It was an honest and productive conversation, and we agreed to continue for a while longer. But I would ultimately need to make a decision. 2 weeks later, I received an acceptance letter to a medical school about 2 hours away. I felt both thrilled and devastated simultaneously. I had just celebrated my 26th birthday and was on the verge of achieving a significant life ambition. Then I realized I would never see her or the girls. Self-doubt consumed me. Becoming a medical student, then a resident with a fellowship, would be a roughly 7-year endeavor. All the while, I wouldn't be able to earn the income or support the lifestyle we had grown accustomed to. I considered the prospect of at least 7 years of loans, debt, and demanding work, and the loss of her. So I declined the medical school offer and reverted to pursuing a master's in nursing administration. We married in July of 2003. It was an intimate and private ceremony with only immediate family and close friends. While my parents adore the girls, and rightly so, they have always been somewhat reserved with my soon-to-be ex-wife. On Monday, when I informed my parents of the situation and the real possibility that the girls might become less prominent in their lives, they reiterated their long-held belief that my soon-to-be ex-wife was damaged goods due to her previous marriage and for compelling me to compromise. That deeply resonated with me, and to a certain extent, they were and are correct. After I graduated, I didn't want to be a manager or director. I'm a hands-on individual who enjoys caring for patients directly. The hospital where I worked offered certification in ECMO and a perfusionist credential. It was a highly competitive application, but I was accepted. For the past 11 years, I've been involved in ECMO and related procedures. I've found it incredibly rewarding, challenging, and at times, heartbreaking. My soon-to-be ex-wife decided about 5 years ago that working as an RN on the hospital floor had run its course, and she desired a more conventional 9-to-5 job that didn't involve patients or drama. She secured a position through a friend at a multi-state legal consultancy specializing in medical legal cases. She extracts data from patient records and presents it as requested. So that's the context. On Saturday morning, 2 days after the initial discovery, I had only slept a few hours. Dark, unsettling thoughts plagued me regarding my future and existence. I still harbor thoughts and scenarios of death and violence directed at them and myself. I was in the kitchen preparing me breakfast, eggs and toast, when she walked in, still bleary-eyed. She asked if I would make some for her. I deliberately threw it into the trash can in the front of her. I then proceeded to load my record player and blast music from my youth at an uncomfortably high volume, preventing her from attempting to speak with me. I know, very mature. I began pain shopping intensely, reviewing the printed communications in chronological sequence. I both recommend and don't recommend it. By afternoon, I had finished with certain music artists. I was listening to melancholic breakup songs by Chris Isaak and Ray LaMontagne. She approached again. This time she was almost indignant, asking what purpose notifying the other man's wife served. I stared at her for what felt like an excessively long time, somewhat bewildered. I told her plainly that at least the other man's wife would have the opportunity to make an informed decision about her future, instead of sacrificing and compromising for someone who would betray them so callously. I gathered my message to the other man's wife had been received, and things were not going well for him. She sat on the couch and began to tear up and sob. I told her I was past crying, or more accurately, I was so numb that I would experience that emotion later, once I had completed what needed to be done. She asked timidly, all indignation and bravado absent from her voice, what else I had left to do. I told her, to ruin your life and inflict upon you the pain I currently feel. I told her that if she held any respect or affection for me, she would unlock her phone and reveal everything. She refused, claiming it didn't matter, and I would only use it against her. I said a part of me, the part that seeks completion, simply wanted to know. She refused and retreated to the guest bedroom. I located her HR new hire documentation from her company. They maintained a corporate compliance hotline, and I called, leaving a detailed message. My soon-to-be ex-wife and the other man had discussed client information, which included protected health data using an unapproved, unsecured messaging system. I also informed them that she acted as his supervisor on 2 projects during a specific period that coincided with the sexually inappropriate messages. Finally, I stated that both had used their company's subsidized phones to transmit explicit content, photos, texts, videos, which was also a significant violation. My entire life, I have perceived myself as a calm and logical man. This experience has shattered that aspect of my being. I don't understand the source of all this anger. I'm somewhat concerned, wondering if it will ever subside. I know, eventually, to overcome this, I will have to accept her apology and forgive her mistakes. I just don't know if I'm capable, and that worries me. That evening, I continued to inform family and friends of the situation and her actions. I contacted a physician friend asking for a favor, a general checkup, and an STI screening. He had questions. I answered them. My eyes grew heavy around 8 p.m. Sunday, 3 days after the initial discovery. I decided to drive to see the girls, who live about 3 hours away. The youngest is still in college for another semester, perhaps longer thanks to 2020. I've had very strong feelings about them since this began. I've fostered a respectful, friendly connection with them, but not really a paternal one, especially with the oldest. We are civil, but there's always that underlying "you're not my father" dynamic between us. Less so with the youngest, but when they're together it becomes more pronounced. I left early Sunday around 5 a.m., arriving at their apartment, paid for by their biological father, just after 8:45. I brought them pastries and good coffee. They immediately expressed concern for their mother before I even spoke. I told them the situation directly and that their mother would likely be relocating within the next 3 to 6 months. I can honestly say it was best to deliver this news in person. I told them everything. They were disappointed in her. I then explained I wasn't there to make them choose sides, but they were adults in a unique position within our relationship, and if they chose not to interact or maintain a relationship with me, that was acceptable. I would be somewhat saddened but also relieved. I told them, however, that our relationship, or lack thereof, should not impact their connection with their grandparents, my parents. They both agreed they definitely wished to stay in touch with my parents. I departed around 11 a.m. and headed home. I stopped at my best friend's house and shed a few tears. I had essentially helped raise them as best I could. Their biological father was absent for most of their childhood and started another family 6 hours away. My best friend decided I had consumed enough alcohol over the past 72 hours and needed sleep. I stayed at his place that night. I had noticed my soon-to-be ex-wife's calls blowing up my phone after I left the girl's place. Oh well, I was too exhausted and in too dark a state to care. Monday, 4 days after the discovery, I arrived home around 8 a.m. and saw her luxury car still there. For a moment, I thought she had taken a ride-sharing service to the airport. No, she had not. She was awake and had prepared breakfast. She asked me to sit and eat with her. I did. She inquired how it tasted. I told her, like static. I explained I'd struggled to taste or feel anything other than bitterness and rage for the past 5 days. She had called in sick to work and had not left for her quarterly meeting. She attempted to speak about how worried she was for me and how deeply she loved me. She had received a call from her oldest daughter yesterday around noon, who was profoundly disturbed by her mother's actions. I laughed. As I did, I realized it wasn't a humorous laugh. It had a manic quality that startled me. I said, "Oh, you love me so much. You had an 18-month affair behind my back. You love me so much you slept with some other married man. You love me so much you squandered nearly half of my life." Because she had never offered a reason for her actions, I told her that it made everything so much worse. I went to the liquor cabinet and retrieved the bottle. It was an 18-year-old single malt my grandfather had purchased for us when we married. It had been our custom to share a small sip on our anniversary night, reminding ourselves that things improve with time and perseverance. I drank the rest of it rapidly. About a third of the bottle remained. I apologized for not offering her any, stating she didn't deserve it. I went to the bedroom and began removing all pictures from the wall that included us or her. I placed them on the kitchen table. She had left. My attorney, or rather her paralegal, called to inform me the divorce petition was prepared, and I needed to authorize it before it could be filed, and my soon-to-be ex-wife would be served within 10 business days. I quickly reviewed it, feeling quite intoxicated from the premium scotch, signed and sent it off. I also received a message from the other man's wife. She reluctantly thanked me for this terrible but necessary disclosure. She declined to speak with me directly, but wished to message me to convey that she had found text and videos with other women besides my soon-to-be ex-wife. She had evicted him and was seeking legal counsel soon. They reside in California. I continued to listen to music and had a few more drinks. I fell asleep around 4 p.m. I heard her arrive home around 10 p.m. She saw the stack of pictures and items that had once held meaning for us. She began sobbing, asking me to talk. I only posed one question: why? She kept repeating she didn't know. I called her despicable names and said she made numerous choices leading up to even the first text. She was the one who initiated it. I was quite unrestrained with my words due to being drunk. I laughed at her and started undressing, saying, "You discarded this," gesturing to my physique. I might be criticized for this, but I am 6'4" and weigh 200 kilograms. Until last week, I still jogged and lifted weights 4 times weekly for some pot-bellied, insignificant man who offered her nothing. I went to my room and showered. When I emerged, she was in bed, unclothed. She had lit some candles and pleaded with me. I activated my phone's camera and instructed her to repeat what she had said. I am grateful to everyone who suggested doing this, just in case. For whatever reason, my physical response did not effectively convey to her that I did not desire her. So, I complied. I was not gentle. I positioned her uncomfortably and aggressively engaged with her. I told her I wanted anal sex and to hear her beg for it. I recorded the entire encounter. Afterward, I felt a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I love her, yet I am indifferent to her. I hate her, yet I think nothing of her. I want her and feel I need her, but it pains me to contemplate us anymore. We fell asleep together. I woke up somewhat hungover and struggled to look at myself in the mirror. Tuesday, 5 days after the discovery. Therapy was a 2.5-hour session. Unbeknownst to me, she had followed me there and demanded to know what I was doing. I told her I was seeking therapy for the emotional trauma I experienced, or after realizing I had dedicated most of my life to someone who couldn't even provide a reason for her infidelity. I was somewhat loud and teary-eyed. My new therapist witnessed most of the exchange. I called her awful names and wished her dead. Needless to say, my session was intense. He prescribed some sedatives for me, and I had another shorter appointment scheduled for Thursday. We discussed my rage and betrayal, my feelings of emasculation, and my apprehension about the future. I explained I am terrified of the unknown. Last week, I felt like a complete individual. I had direction and objectives. I also had a partner to navigate any challenges and obstacles. Now I feel like a vessel without guidance or propulsion, lacking any sense of purpose, strength, or means to escape the situation. He began to explain the why I so desperately sought. It isn't a single question, but rather a series of inquiries that he found quite insightful. He suggested it could apply to understanding the motivation behind any behavior. He advised that instead, I should calmly ask my soon-to-be ex-wife what internal permission she granted herself to do this to me. There were several more follow-up questions, but this one resonated most deeply. I informed him about the sexual encounter. He recommended establishing clear boundaries regarding our physical relationship. Ultimately, he advised against further intimacy unless reconciliation was my objective, as it would cause immense confusion and worsen things. I cried, I raged, I left utterly drained. My soon-to-be ex-wife was still waiting outside for me. I walked past her, ignoring her questions and pleas. I received a call from the physician's office regarding my tests and went to that appointment. I gave him the brief version. He recommended ceasing alcohol consumption and taking the sedatives cautiously. I returned home and continued removing my belongings from the house, packing them away. I've decided I will move out. I contacted work and requested an in-person meeting. The thought of working or focusing on critical life or death situations is impossible in my current mental state. I drove to the hospital's administrative building, met with the team, and formally submitted my 6-week resignation. My specialized role is quite niche, so 6 weeks is considered a minimum professional courtesy. I stated concisely that my soon-to-be ex-wife's actions had created a stressful home environment, and I would be a liability to patients, the team, and myself if I remained in this area. I have resolved to move far away. I arrived home after purchasing some groceries. It had been about a week since I had consumed more than a mouthful of food, subsisting mainly on alcohol. I heeded both my therapist's and physician friend's advice, deciding to prepare some food and stop drinking. She was home, sitting in the darkened living room, drinking wine. She had arranged the pictures and was reviewing them. She had applied makeup and was wearing a dress suitable for a date night. She had been crying extensively. Her makeup was smudged. She stood and tried to embrace me. I gently pushed her away and deliberately pulled out my phone, hitting record. She started crying again. She informed me the other man's wife had called her, revealing he had other women besides her. She admitted she was utterly foolish, and every derogatory term I had used for her was accurate. She begged me to reconsider our relationship. I asked, why bother? She didn't succeed. She betrayed me. I told her I was sorry her deceit had been exposed, but I felt she regretted being caught, not truly remorseful for what she had done to me. I told her I believed she was sorry she would have to start over, and that she was more distressed about that than losing any affection she might have held for me. I stated she abandoned her love for me, or for us 2 years ago, when she chose this path. I continued to press the points against her. I informed her of my call to the corporate compliance hotline and the specific rules she had broken. I didn't raise my voice or appear angry. I was trembling slightly, but it felt as if everything was leaving me in a rush. I felt both elated and profoundly low simultaneously. I felt empty when I finished. I put away the few groceries I had bought and made a small sandwich, then went to bed. She was there again. I took out my phone and, with the recorder active, reiterated what my therapist had discussed regarding intimacy. Keep in mind, in 17 years, I cannot recall a single instance where I refused or declined sex from her. I asked her to leave and sleep in the guest bedroom. She refused. I said, fine, then I will. Wednesday, 6 days after the discovery, I woke up to find her curled beside me. I gently moved away and performed some light exercises. I've been refining my resume and submitting applications. I might be working in Seattle by year end. I deeply love my parents and will miss being only 20 minutes away from them, especially as they age. I cannot remain in this city. The thought of encountering her after this is all over is something I don't wish to entertain. I want to be free from reminders of my profound loss and a lifetime of concessions. It was a rather uneventful day, raining intermittently for most of it. I met my best friend and gave him an overview during an early dinner. We decided not to drink. My attorney confirmed that my relocation would not impact the financial outcome. I plan to live off my accrued paid time off until the end of October and use my half of our liquid savings to move and establish myself. I feel hollow and I try to laugh at his humorous remarks, but it requires effort. I continually find myself in a deep void with a powerful gravitational pull. I have never contemplated ending my own life, but for the past few days and nights, I've had waking dreams of what it would be like if I were no longer here. I intend to tell my therapist tomorrow. My soon-to-be ex-wife has been visiting the library. I've been monitoring her via a certain search engine and reading relationship books. I've been reading Chump Lady, which offers excellent insights. She received a call from her workplace. I overheard a small part of it, but I know she has a meeting tomorrow despite her claims of illness. She was in bed again, just like the previous few nights. I am so torn. I just want to feel something. But I feel so little beyond hatred and resentment for her that the only kind of intimacy I desire is sadistic. I'll admit that during the abusive intimacy we had Monday, I felt almost a euphoric rush. But then came a crash, and the next day I was angry at myself. I harbor a slight doubt regarding my resolve not to want her back. I know she made a monumental error, but I don't know if I can ever forget or forgive it. I am a complete mess. I explained the boundaries regarding intimacy with my phone recording. I told her it did not signify reconciliation or any hidden desire for that. I told her this was likely a trauma response, unhealthy. I told her I would not be gentle or consider her feelings or needs during it. She was teary-eyed and nodded in understanding. She quietly said she deserved it. She then turned over and got on all fours. Thursday, 7 days after the discovery, I woke up with her spooning me. I lay there for a while and heard her breathing pattern shift. I could feel her gaze on me. With my back turned, I asked what her meeting was about. She said it was with an HR representative and would likely be negative. I simply said, yes. She asked what she could do to mend things or make us equal again. I said nothing. She proposed an open marriage on my part. She wouldn't pursue anyone, but I could. I chuckled. No, I don't trust her. She said that was fair. We had this conversation with my back to her. It was easier than looking at her. I grow angry when I see her face. I asked what I had done in this marriage that made her so unhappy she resorted to this. She said I was beyond great. I chuckled again. Well, that clearly doesn't matter, I responded. She claimed it was an adventure, that she thrived on the thrill. She didn't realize until it was too late that if she were caught or if something went wrong, everyone would be hurt. She said it was a tremendous relief and an unforgettable pain when I confronted her on. I got up and made us breakfast. I went to my therapist and detailed my career plans and the responses to my applications. I told him everything about my soon-to-be ex-wife and the intimacy. We discussed my thoughts of self-harm and talked through the process associated with them. Again, he wasn't judgmental. He just wanted me to avoid confusion, or if I didn't understand, to pause and process. It was only a 1 hour and 55-minute session, and I felt that peculiar calm again, as if nothing mattered for the moment. Everything simply exists. When I arrived home, she was seated in the living room. She informed me she had been terminated for breaching client information protocols and violating data security guidelines. I said, well, that's unfortunate. I exercised and prepared a pleasant dinner. She joined me. We didn't exchange many words. As we sat in the living room, she told me the other man had also been fired. I said, good. She told me she'd had no contact with him for 5 days. I asked why not. They were both free now. She could fly to her soulmate and enjoy all the fun they desired. She said I was the only one she wanted. I replied, no, you had all of me, and it still wasn't enough. I told her that in nearly 20 years of work in our relationship, I had been propositioned and hit on countless times. I managed not to fall in love with anyone else. Now I am so bitter and angry because of the compromises I made. She asked, what compromises? I told her my desire to attend medical school, but I chose instead to marry and seek stability. My initial lack of desire for children, but because they were a part of her, I accepted them and compromised. I said, I made those compromises for our love, but clearly I had misplaced my trust and affection in her. I told her that if I could revisit the past, I would advise my 26-year-old self to bypass her entirely. She asked again what she could do to reunite us. I told her I would never again compromise for her, and that means we truly cannot have a healthy relationship. I told her I would never love her again, and at best I would treat her like a sexual object. Otherwise, she would not factor into my plans or thoughts. I told her that just a week ago, she was the first person I thought of upon waking and the last person I thought about before sleeping. Now it hurts too much to think of her. I am going to walk away from this. I feel like it is constantly reminding me of things. I cannot adequately thank those kind individuals I could chat with, who shared their pain and stories, and who have helped me. This entire process has, in a way, been beneficial for me, but I keep replaying events and emotions I would rather simply move past. I remain uncertain about what I truly want. I don't know if I will ever be completely sure about anything involving her again. I have bi-weekly appointments for the next 4 years with my therapist. This has been an incredibly difficult story to share. Ultimately, regardless of the path ahead, I truly hope you commit to becoming as close to the person you were before this devastation. It's clear your emotional state is one of profound turmoil and suffering, and that's fully expected. Please continue with therapy, avoid the destructive behaviors like excessive drinking and poor eating, and strive to find internal peace. More than anything, finding peace is what you need most.